Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 16th meeting of the Corte Madera Town Council. Appreciate you all being here. We'll start with a roll call and salute to the flag.
Councilmember Andrews,
Present.
Councilmember Beckman,
Here.
Councilmember Casissa,
Here.
Vice Mayor Thomas,
Here.
Mayor Ravazio.
Here. And now if you could join me for a salute to the flag. Flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much for that. We will now have open time for public comment. This is for items that are not on tonight's agenda. We welcome you to come to the microphone. You can introduce yourself if you like, and you have 3 minutes to tell us what's on your mind.
Hi, I'm Don Wilberg, 13 Seminole Avenue. One more possibilitizing idea. I was just in Limoges, France last month for a couple of nights with my wife. We were on the 3rd floor of a small hotel overlooking a town plaza. There were coffee shops and restaurants along the, down below us. There was a Monoprix grocery Rite Aid kind of store across the way. It was pretty good size. To our left was a Lafitte gallery, which is like a Nordstrom's. There were a couple of pharmacies. There were bunch of other small shops. There was a enclosed carousel. There was dancing waters over one place for the kids to play in. There was mist coming up out of the plaza from time to time. And above all of this was 4 or 5 stories of housing with all balconies on the square. And underneath it was 2 stories of parking garage. So it was really a pretty cool thing. So a crazy idea. So what if we were to, over here at our shopping centers, build 2 garages for the electric vehicle, the driverless Ubers, for a charging station, put a plaza on top of them, connect them across the freeway with a walking bridge with moving aisles across it, put shops around the plazas on both sides, and then put housing up above on the freeway side where it's not affecting, the neighbors on either sides. There were soccer players and all this kind of stuff. My wife and I were sitting there having a glass of wine and an hors d'oeuvre on our balcony, and 80 to 100 people came out and were dancing with their own music. They were dancing salsa. It was really a very cool place. So could we do something like that here in our town? We have the opportunity coming up in the next 10 years, but I am having problems seeing that happen. And from my experience from all these years, Corte Madera is just like every other town out there in California that I've worked with. It's a restrictive mode versus a possibilitizing mode. We've got really smart people. We've got a smart planning director. We've got a smart, town manager. We've got business people, but how are we paying them? We're incentivizing them to be restrictive.
Thanks very much for your comment. Appreciate all your thinking on our behalf. Okay, come on up if you have a comment.
Good evening, council members and town staff. My name is Anita Bach, and I live at 200 Marina Vista Avenue. I would like to preface my remarks by commending Town Manager Adam Wolf, Rebecca Vaughan, Mayor Ravazio, Vice Mayor Thompson, and Councilman Beckman for their unfailing responsiveness and prompt action when an issue is brought to their attention, and just generally whenever their assistance on any matter is requested. Thank you. I'm going to quickly read my comments so that I stay within your 3-minute rule. I'm here tonight to request that the town revise its outdoor half-staff flag policy to require discretionary review by the council when circumstances so warrant. In light of the fact that the town of Corte Madera flew its flag at half-staff on Friday and Saturday, September 12th and 13th. Under the U.S. Flag Code, which is Title IV of the U.S. Code, a local town can refuse a presidential half-staff proclamation, whether the order violates the code or not. The Flag Code is a guideline, not a legally enforceable law, and it contains no civil or criminal penalties for noncompliance. A presidential proclamation applies to flags on federal buildings and installations. A town can decide whether to lower its own municipal flags, as the president's authority generally does not extend to state and local entities. While it is customary for local governments to follow federal flag actions, they are not legally obligated to do so. The U.S. Flag Code serves only as a voluntary guide and is not mandatory, and not a mandatory federal regulation. This status was reinforced by the Supreme Court, which held that free speech under the First Amendment prevents government from punishing most forms of flag-related expression. So as stated, there is no enforcement authority, no penalty for refusing to lower a flag to half-staff. Whether or not the order from the president is deemed to be in violation of the U.S. Code. In our current political environment, however, there may be political considerations, which is all the more reason why the town's flag policy must require council review in certain controversial or highly charged political circumstances. When a flag flown at half-flag equates to inappropriate political commentary that may incite community discord and disrespect or demean members of the community, it must be reviewed by the council before that action is taken. While the U.S. Flag Code specifies certain federal officials for whom the flag should be lowered, it does grant the president discretion to modify that policy. This broad authority allows him to issue the request for non-government figures. It is therefore essential that the town promptly revise its flag policy to avoid taking flag actions in the future that are wholly inconsistent with the town and community's values and the freedom of expression and safety of its residents. In these politically charged times, caution, discretion, and discernment is vitally important. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, council members. I'm Steve Kaplan, 200 Marina Vista, Larkspur. If you asked me 10 years ago, what might be the top 25 or 50 civic issues I might be concerned about and want to speak publicly, lowering the flag wouldn't have made the top 50. It was always assumed that when there was a presidential order to lower the flag, it was to recognize somebody who had made a significant contribution to the well-being of this country, whether you believe or whether you supported or not their particular political stance. The person that was being honored clearly represented the good of this country and the values that we hold. In Corte Madera on Saturday and Friday and Saturday, post 9/11, the flag was at half-staff, as there were other areas locally. Schools had their flags at half-mast as well. In these times, symbolism is everything. And the symbolic meaning of that lowered flag was to honor a political operative whose rhetoric was divisive and violent against very specific segments of this country that Corte Madera would, through their inclusive policies, would not support, I assume. So when the flag is lowered and people are driving by, if they're paying attention, they conclude that the city is honoring this particular person, which I'm not sure if we polled each one of you privately, that would be the case or not. So as Anita said, I think it's incredibly important that the city and the elected people take a hard look at when and how and for whom you would order your flags lowered. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish I was at home right now, not even thinking about lowering flags. But that's not where we're at in this country right now. I know this council is doing things to try to unify this city and the surrounding area, and I applaud you for those efforts. They need to continue, they need to be amplified, and we just need to take more care of the symbolisms that we portray to the local community. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Hi, I'm Shelley McCall and I live at 42 Summit. And I moved here in 1986, so I'm one of the old people on the hill now. And I have to tell you that as a mom, as a neighbor, as a friend, and a devout Christ follower, I was very offended by this white supremacist being honored by our country. And most of the people that I know would say the same thing. And I'm so sorry that you were asked to make a decision to have to honor this man by lowering the flag. You shouldn't have to do that. We don't need to honor people who are so divisive. We need unity and not division. And I want to support what Anita and Steve said and support you in giving you whatever you need to change the policies, amend the policies. We trust you to make a decision for our community to lower the flag when it's appropriate. I think we all agree 9/11 is appropriate. The end of World War II is appropriate. There are times when it's appropriate. And we trust you to do that. And we want you to know we support whatever you need to do to change the policies so that you're able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else? Now we got trouble. No, I'm kidding.
I just
Hello?
want to talk about food trucks.
Would you mind introducing yourself for those?
My
who
name is
don't
Bob
know?
Ravazio. I live on Oakdale Avenue, Corte Madera, and I'm here to talk about food trucks. There have been some emails protesting the food truck in Menke Park from Zando's and Stefano's, two local businesses. And I think they're right. And we should really take a hard look at letting the food truck that is going in there 6 days a week, all day. There's going to be a lot of protests from the neighbors. It's a very popular food truck. And this is no knock on the people running the food truck. They're great people. They're nice. They're smart. They're clean. They run a good business. But existing businesses who pay rent and have invested a lot of money in the community. In Zondo's case, I think they spent well over $500,000 in fixing up that building. And their business is really being hurt by this food truck. And I think the food truck for vendor pays a permit fee, and that's about it. They're also taking up 5 parking spaces all day in a crowded lot. Zondo's is investing in the community, as is Stefano's, and trying to create more commerce in the area, which is something that residents want. The truck is there for free. Again, 6 days a week, all day. Landlords are going to be hurt by this also potentially, because if these guys go out of business, building values are going to suffer. And if these businesses eventually pull out, which they may, it hurts real estate values for those buildings. It hurts it for everybody in the area. Number 3, no other town I know of does this. Would Larkspur let a food truck operate on Magnolia Avenue every day, all day, and take business from tax-paying businesses? Absolutely not. Would San Rafael? No, they would not. We should not either. I spoke to the mayor of San Rafael about this for a while yesterday, and she said they've had a problem with illegal trucks. Now, they limit their legal trucks to Thursday night farmers markets, 1 night a week in the summer only. That's it. They don't let them on 4th Street taking business from businesses who are investing in the community. I think you need to make this an agenda item as soon as possible. Can we have food trucks? Sure. Maybe 1 night a week. Or what about putting food trucks at San Clemente Park next to the Cove School on the Bay side? They've been saying for years they want more restaurants over there. This would be a great opportunity to do that. And I bet the trucks would be a huge hit over there. So please make this an agenda item and take a look at it as soon as possible, because we are hurting local businesses who have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in building the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ravazio. Anybody else up next?
Roy Wolford. I received an email last week, quite disturbing. Speak about divisive. Here, I'm going to read it. Today, the radical Republican majority on Donald Trump's Supreme Court made a grave ruling. It's the United States Supreme Court, not Donald Trump's. Grave, a very bad choice of words considering what happened last week. Continuing. They gave ICE legal permission to detain people solely based on their ethnicity or that they speak Spanish. It's a quote out of the New York Times. It's foolish to quote headlines as the New York Times as being authoritative sources. Continuing reading, Trump and his allies are legalizing racism and setting fire to our Constitution by effectively removing our Fourth Amendment protections from unreasonable search and seizure. This is extremely untrue. Continuing, freedom is under full assault right here in our community. Here's how we fight back. 1, donate. 2, share this and send it out with your network to your network. Continuing reading, our freedom is only as secure as it is for the most vulnerable among us. And it's time for all of us to stand up together and defend each other in solidarity. I ask, in solidarity to be dishonest, dishonesty, delusion, mental disorder, misinformation, misrepresentation. And this is very Adam Schiff and Cory Booker-like. This is truly a pathetic email. I'm so sad that this is what the town council has come down to. And apparently there are the same supporters here. To call somebody who was assassinated last week is evil and fomenting violence is absolutely false. Go read his publications. Find out what he's about. No, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat because I gave up the party system a long time ago. And it is just terrible. You know, I've all talked about the issues about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I've brought up issues that have made this such an intolerable position to move forward and make it the town's mission and values. It's horrendous. I've spoken about what's happened at Sonoma State. I went to Sonoma State, graduated in the early 70s, major in geology, minor in chemistry. My wife attended and graduated, my 3 children. And it's just terrible to see what's happening under diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you very
For
much.
listening.
Okay, I am not seeing any other volunteers in the room, so we can go online. Is there anyone online who would like to speak?
We don't have any hands raised from attendees online, and we didn't receive any emailed public comment for open time.
Okay, so we'll move on to number 4, which is the consent calendar. These are items that are just have been discussed previously and are grouped together because staff believes they do not require any further discussion. They'll be approved by a single motion, although any member of the public or staff or council can ask for something to be taken off the consent calendar and discussed separately. Is there any requests for any removals from the consent calendar from council, from the public, online?
We don't have any hands raised. And we didn't receive any requests for removal of any items on the consent calendar.
Okay, so back to the council. I'll entertain a motion for passage.
I'll make a motion to move the consent calendar.
Second.
Councilmember Andrews,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckman,
Yes.
Councilmember Casissa.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Mayor Ravazio.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Okay, so we have no public hearings tonight, and for business item 6A is our next item. Consider and possible action to authorize the interim director of Public Works to approve the plans and contract documents, authorize the advertisement of bids, and award a construction contract to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder for the base bid amount not to exceed $625,000 plus a 10% contingency to the storm drain replacement project number 25-301. And I believe we have a staff report from Mr. Chris Good.
Yes,
Or do we go to Adam first? No, Chris first. All right.
thank you, Mayor
Thank you,
Ravazio
Chris.
and Council. So yeah, I'll be discussing the 2025 storm drain replacement project. This is the first bid CIP project using recommendations from the storm drain master plan that was adopted last October in 2024. So the storm drain master plan split, the recommended storm drain projects into capacity related issues and condition related. Capacity related are basically where they modeled the system and found bottlenecks that would cause flooding in a 10-year storm. And then condition related are where the pipes have defects or issues that have occurred over time and need to be repaired or replaced. So we used several of the capacity and condition related projects that were recommended in the plan. And we provided that to our design consultant who evaluated those projects to determine design strategies and then list all of the constraints. They went through each one and created a basis of design memo, which basically went over everything. And using that, we picked that to include one capacity project and 9 condition projects to include. So, and a large portion of the condition related locations are due to corrugated metal pipe that has corroded over time. A lot of it, the bottom of the pipe is completely missing. And in one instance, off of Sonora Way, there's already a massive sinkhole there. So this was kind of a urgent project that we're trying to get out quickly before the rainy season. A lot of the identified pipes are also under moratorium roads that we've either paved or microserviced in the last few years. So we're trying to use some trenchless methods of repairing them, which include fold and form, slip lining, and pipe bursting. Fold and form and slip lining are basically where they don't have to trench at all. They just slide a folded pipe into the existing pipe and then inflate it using pressure and steam. So that's a great way where it works. Pipe bursting we use in sewer a lot, but basically they just pull a breaking head through the old pipe and it shatters the old pipe and then pull a new pipe inside it. So that's also a great method, but for that one, they actually have to dig a hole at least on one end of it. So that's, that prevents us having to dig into the new streets and potentially do a lot of restoration. And then just going into the fiscal impact, engineer's estimate was $540,000. Added to that will be contingency and material testing. So I believe the total amount we're anticipating is $609,000. And we budgeted $760,000 in the fiscal year 25-26 capital budget. And all the funding will be coming out of Measure F sales tax fund. So that covers most of the project. Based on the master plan, we need to spend approximately $1 million per year on these capacity and condition related projects to address all the very high priority issues listed in the storm drain master plan. And that was their recommendation for 10 years. Beyond this project, we have another $200,000 of storm improvements as part of the Hart Street connector path, which recently was completed. So that's already done. And then we've been able to add some individual storm repairs that were urgent in other sewer projects or individually. So we're making our way to reaching our goal for this fiscal year of 1 million. So that's pretty much everything. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there questions from council?
Yeah, just a quick question on Sonora. Do you know if Sonora, it will be trenchless? Because I know they went through with the sewer laterals, streets got ripped up, and then they were that way for a while. And then Water Department came along saying, oh, by the way, now we're going to rip them up again. So I'm trying to figure out if it's minimal impact to them up there because they were hit kind of hard for a while. Again, no fault of the towns. It was just the way the Water Department came along and said, we're fixing our pipes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there's two on the list that are Sonora. One of them is completely off the street. The other one we're going to slip line the portion under the street, and then as it goes further down the road, we're open trenching that piece because that's the one that's totally failed and there's a big sinkhole there right now. So we won't have to impact the road at all.
Okay. And then I know emergency stuff comes up from time to time. Do we try to tee these types of projects up with complete streets? So everything's getting ripped up at one time and fixed at one time? And
Yeah.
again, I know stuff comes up, so.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Whenever we have a paving project, we try to evaluate the storm drains as part of that. And another example was in Madera Gardens, as part of the storm and sewer, we evaluated all the storm drains to make sure that they're in good condition before, we go in and pave the roads.
Okay, thanks.
Anything, Eli, from you? Any questions, Jim?
Yes, you said all the funding's coming out of the Measure F sales tax. How much money's left over? I'm just wondering what our balance is getting down to before we.
I don't know off the top of my head. I do know this project is less than we have budgeted, so there should be a surplus at least for this project. The other big issue or big change this year was that we had budgeted $3 million for the Tamalpais overcrossing, and that's no longer needed. So there should be a large surplus, I believe.
And Councilmember Andrews, we're happy to, this is over here, happy to follow up and give you a precise figure of where we are after the meeting.
Mentally, I'm trying to get a feeling for where our balance is going, and then we refill it each year when we get the sales tax proceeds. And
right.
Just want to make certain we don't overcommit to, one fund that, we will come up short sometime.
These were as part of the capital 5-year capital plan. I think in 25, 26, we did include this project at a budgeted amount coming out of the sales tax fund. So it is anticipated, and I don't think we have had any unanticipated expenditures at this point from the sales tax fund.
I have one question. You mentioned the Hart Street connector path. Are there any plans to officially christen that or celebrate it or open it? Is it all finished, or is there still work to be done?
It's substantially completed. There's a little bit of pavement striping, and there's a maintenance period for the trees, but for the most part, the path itself is done and open. I don't believe we have any plans for a grand opening, but
You're just opening it. Are people already using it? I'm assuming they're already walking up.
Yes, yeah. And we've already gotten some compliments last time I was out there.
Good.
So
If I may, it's a good suggestion, and I've been trying to encourage our team to actually, celebrate these moments where we, like Casa Buena as well. When we get that entirely done, I think we should certainly celebrate that one as well, just to show the great work that our Public Works team is doing.
Awesome. So are there any other questions? Are there any comments from the community in the room regarding this item? Anybody online waiting to speak?
No hands raised from attendees online and no emailed public comment for this item.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. Any comments or motions? Anything at all? Mhm.
I make a motion that we authorize the interim director of Public Works to approve plans and documents, contracts, and authorize the advertisement of bids and award construction contract to the lowest possible and responsive bidder for the base bid amount not to exceed $625,000 plus 10% contingency for the storm drain replacement project number 25-301.
Second.
Is there a second? Jim? Okay.
Councilmember Andrews,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckman.
Yes.
Councilmember Casissa.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Mayor Ravazio.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you much, Chris, for your hard work on this. Appreciate it. We'll move on to 6B, which is consideration and possible action to authorize the hiring of an additional senior maintenance worker in the Public Works Department. And we have a staff report.
Thank you, Mayor Ravazio and council members. I'm going to kick this one off and tee it up and be around for questions afterwards. And Chris will do the bulk of the presentation here and report. But I think this is just another step that I wanted to elaborate on a little bit, another step of our effort to be a little bit more proactive with our and really put more effort and energy into being proactive in improving the sanitary sewer system. Really starting with the sanitary sewer master planning effort, which was completed last year or about a year and a half ago. We've been really working to figure out where improvements have been needed on the capital side in terms of enhancing and improving the system itself and making fixes, but also with, and also I should say, providing the financing to do so, but also on the labor side or on the workforce side and trying to make sure that when we do make improvements and when we look at our existing system, we're maintaining those up to standards that meet our goals as a sanitary agency. Of course, we're talking about this as a town council. The district employees are actually town employees. And so that's why we're here discussing this at the council meeting in front of the town council. And we'll have some questions on that later. But in any case, starting with the sewer master plan, we've also gone through an effort to issue bonds, as you know, to complete some significant capital improvement projects. I think some of you got a tour of the Paradise Pump Station, which was funded essentially through that bond measure. We may have one again in the future in another year and a half or so to attack those major issues that on our sewer system. On the organizational side, we hired, created a new position. I shouldn't say hired, but we created a new field supervisor position that is now able to help our sewer crews out in the field and supervise their work. We enhanced some of the benefits or incentive pay in our last MOUs with our those public works maintenance employees who want to get certifications for mostly our sanitary sewer training, confined space and others, and reporting. There's obviously a lot of important reporting and environmental issues that our workers need to be on top of. And then we obviously recently created the deputy district manager position. And now this is, I think, another step in adding to our workforce so that we're able to really meet the maintenance and operational goals of the district. And so that's just an introduction of, this is part of a larger piece of that we've been focused on in really trying to raise the level and the standard of SD2 and how we operate the system and how we're trying to be proactive moving forward. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Chris.
Thanks, Adam. Next slide, please. So just to build off what Adam was saying, the Public Works is responsible for maintaining the sanitary sewer system, which includes 45 miles of gravity sewer pipes on top of the 19 pump stations, the valves, and 6 miles of force mains. And in between, all the town facilities in the sewer, it's a lot to maintain. So updated sewer master plan from November 2023 identified that 16% of the gravity sewer system has a structural rating of 4 or 5, and 24% is at 2 or 3. And what that means is where there's pipes that are structural grade 4 or 5, they have major issues, including cracks, fractures, broken pipes, holes, collapsed sections, or large offsets and sags. And these pipes potentially could fail anywhere between 0 and 5 years. And then for grades 2 and 3, there's moderate defects that need to be closely tracked and maintained. So learning this, we basically found out that we need to closely monitor and clean these lines much more frequently to avoid backups and spills. And, we have a lot of projects out right now to try and replace them, but until we can, we need to be really on top of the maintenance side. So, the third point, staff have to address grease runs, hand rotting areas, and these high priority pipes that I just mentioned to avoid spills multiple times a year. And just to explain that, the grease runs are basically pipes around town where we know that we have a lot of grease buildup. Oftentimes it's downstream of restaurants or businesses or some neighborhood areas where the pipes are flat and just accumulate grease. The hand rotting areas are the areas up in the hills that are oftentimes in easements and have trees growing around top of them. So we're constantly fighting roots growing into the pipes. And so those, and then the high priority pipes are what I just mentioned, the ones that have major defects and need to be replaced. And all of these, we have to clean out multiple times a year to avoid any backups. So it's a lot of maintenance work. And then there's currently 7 maintenance staff members who maintain all of the town, park, flood control, and sanitary sewer infrastructure. Next slide. So this table is in the staff report, but basically it shows over the past 8 years, I believe, the percentage of the system that we've been able to clean. And as you can see, we've made major strides even in this time, going from around 12 to 13% in 2018 to now we've plateaued around 60% in the last few years. So that's made a huge difference, and we've been able to reduce the number of spills each year quite a bit. And it definitely reflects, our additional maintenance efforts. But where, with the current staffing, we're unable to get any further. And as I mentioned, we have to clean a lot of the pipes multiple times a year, so it makes it difficult to meet our goals. So this is just a quick org chart for Public Works. Engineering's on the right, maintenance is on the left. So we have our superintendent and assistant superintendent who manage the other staff. And then, as I mentioned, we have 7 staff members, 1 field supervisor, 3 maintenance workers, and 3 senior maintenance workers. And those 7 are the ones who are just dealing with all the maintenance around town. And out of those 7, 3 are fully trained to work on all sanitary sewer work, and they have the certifications required. So it creates challenges because, if any of those 3 staff members are out, due to injury, sickness, or vacation, or when there's urgent tasks on the town side that pull them away from the sewer side, we're unable to keep up with our regular flushing and maintenance. And even if the existing, other employees who are not fully trained and don't have certifications went through that effort, we still believe there just wouldn't be enough staff time to fully meet the maintenance needs and operational goals of the town and sanitary district. Next slide. So just to go through, our goal and the potential benefits. The goal, as Adam mentioned, was to add one new senior maintenance worker to help meet the district's preventive maintenance goals. And that's basically to enhance the operational efficiency and balance current staffing skills, as well as increase our annual sewer cleaning. So the more maintenance workers we have, the more we're able to devote to the sewer side and get more cleaning done. Balance staffing and provide more support. So there's two pieces of this. One, I previously mentioned, when we have staff out for one or more reasons, the more maintenance workers we have that can cover for them, the better we're able to continue work and continue regular maintenance. And the second piece is with sanitary sewer work, we typically have to send out teams of 2 to run the current machine we have is the VACCON, and the new one that we've recently purchased and will be arriving soon is the Vector truck, which is pictured up on the slide. But basically, yeah, it requires a team of 2 to operate. So right now, as I said, we have 3 maintenance workers that generally do sewer maintenance. And so we can only really send 1 team of 2 out. But potentially, if we get 1 additional senior maintenance worker who's trained, we have the potential to send both out and we can get double the amount of cleaning done on an average day. So that could be a huge benefit. The third benefit is reducing our reliance on outside contractors. Right now, for all the reasons I've mentioned, we just can't keep up with our needs. So we have to turn to outside contractors, which costs the district additional money to keep up with maintenance. And on top of that, even, sometimes it's just like hiring contractors sounds like the solution, but we have to end up sending one of our maintenance workers with the contractor to make sure everything gets done correctly and to basically log everything in our asset software to keep track of, which lines we're cleaning and where they're going and everything. So it's definitely, it's tough on the team. It doesn't really help us that much. We still have to send somebody out with them. Let's see. And so finally, the last major benefit is just to reduce the sanitary sewer spills, which in turn will reduce the risk of lawsuits and fines. And long term, that can be the biggest cost savings for the district because there are major impacts if we have too many spills or we're sued by an outside organization, which, as you know, has happened before. So just to quickly go through the fiscal impact, the total cost of a new position, including salary and benefits, is between $101,000 and $121,200, depending on the starting step. And we are anticipating that the new position will be funded 90% from SD2 and 10% from the town. Just because our goal is to get someone trained in sanitary sewer and mainly work towards that, but all of our maintenance workers have to kind of switch between, their town hat and the sanitary hat. And they're all on duty on off hours. So they need to be trained in both. Next slide. So that covers my presentation, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you very much. Okay, Adam.
Quickly.
Yep, go
We have the time tonight. I don't think we're running short on time tonight. But anyways, I'll be real quick. I'll be very brief. I did want to say, I've been working out of the courtyard on Thursdays the last couple of months or so. And I would just say it's an impressive amount of infrastructure this team is maintaining on a yearly basis. It's a sort of a seasonal work. And I've been going out to see. We have a tremendous amount of pump stations, both on the sanitary sewer side, on the flood control side, and it takes a lot of work just to maintain those and make those work properly. There's the storm drain cleaning this time of year to get ready for the rainy season. It's constant, and then there's the issue areas that are constantly coming up, and you never know when they're going to crop up. So I've seen that firsthand, and so I'm confident that this is a need in our corporation yard. And I will also say, primarily, we're doing this because over the long term, we think this is better for ratepayers. I mean, we did go through the sewer master plan where the rates are increasing. We understand that. But if we can have better maintenance during the course and the life of our infrastructure, I think, the long term, we're going to be saving money for our ratepayers, and that's really a goal here as well.
Okay, thanks very much. So are there any questions for Chris? Yes.
Yes. So the pay band that is listed, the 101 to 121, would that cover someone who is already certified?
Well, when we go out for recruitment, we're going to basically, we have to use the existing classification, but we're going to request and basically prioritize recruit or individuals who have that experience. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking for. And if there isn't anyone with that experience, because a lot of the special sanitary districts do end up paying more, so they tend to get those applicants. But we'll be ready to train them in sanitary side and get them ready. But yeah, we're going to prioritize people with the certifications already.
Okay. And
Can I just add to that,
Sure.
Councilmember Thomas? So one thing to note on that is that Chris Petlock did run these numbers, and so they are the sort of the fully burdened top step of the senior maintenance worker classification, including the OPEB and the pension liability in there as well, or the share of it at 90% time devoted from SD2. So we may not actually hire somebody at that level sometimes, and as we've seen our staff, we get good people in at entry level, and then we train people and grow with our organization. I think has been effective over the key to one of our success to a certain extent, and then we try to hold on to them so that they don't jump.
right. And how much does the certification cost?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can send that information later.
Okay, thank you. Just curious.
Yeah.
Councilmember Andrews.
So as I understand it, we're adding one person to the head count.
That's what we're requesting. Yeah.
And what is open is whether you can hire somebody in directly at the senior level at the salary we're thinking about, or alternately promote from within and upgrade the people within skill set. And then we'll have to go out and hire another replacement at the lower level for that.
I think for this request, we're just hoping to add one additional person, period. But we're gonna, as Adam mentioned, when we go out for recruitment, we're hoping to find someone who has the skills, and then that person would likely be in the senior maintenance worker position. If we can't find someone like that, potentially we find a good candidate, but they don't have the pre-existing training, we may hire them as a regular maintenance worker and then just get them trained up. And like you said, they would come up. But I think the most important thing is that we just need more people on the team.
Thank you.
Any questions down here?
Yeah, just a quick question. I may have missed it, Adam. Did you say that in its salary, pension cost is built into that?
No, I snuck over and did ask Chris
Okay.
that question. But yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, is that true for all employees, do you know, that have dual roles like that?
Yeah, yes. Well, so I'm
From the peanut
getting the
gallery.
nod. And Chris, by all means, if you want to come up and Chris work on this section.
No, that's okay. They're baked in. Okay, thanks.
Anything, Eli?
Nope.
Okay, so we'll open it up for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address this issue to the council and to staff? Not seeing anyone in the room. Is there anyone online who's
No
got their
hands raised
hand up?
from attendees. No emailed public comment for this item.
Okay, so coming back to the council for comments.
I have
Motion.
a comment and then I can make the motion. The only comment I want to talk about is I'd like to see something agendized on the SD2 side of this, because the town's approving a position, 90% is being paid by SD2, but SD2, it hasn't approved. It's not in their it's not budgeted money because it wasn't budgeted in their for salaries. I'm not sure how that works. I don't know if there's an agreement between the town and SD2, like a service contract. I know there's the ordinance, but it doesn't really speak to this piece of it. So to me, the easiest thing is if we get something on the SD2 side on the agenda, instead of going into it tonight, that can explain all that. And how it works.
Just the relationship and I think part of it might be how a subsidiary district works in relation to the town and budgeting as well. And Amy, I don't know, I think Amy might be part of this. So I'm going to see if you have questions so we can get clarity on what we want to bring back.
Yeah, Amy Ackerman, Town Attorney, Commissioner, Council Member, also Board Commissioner Casissa. I'm just wondering, are you asking that a budget adjustment be brought before SD?
I guess things, I don't know how it works in the sense that we're approving the position, but 90% is being paid by the sanitary district. But the sanitary district, in a sense, hasn't approved an allotment of that money to that position.
Well,
and if there's an employment issue, is that the sanitary district that's responsible, or is it the town that's responsible? It's questions like that.
so the district is a subsidiary district of the town, and what that means under the government code is it's a district in which a city council is designated as and empowered to act as the board of directors of the district. And our municipal code provides that the town provides all the employees for the district. So, and the town manager appoints the district manager. So you are both the governing body of the council and the governing body of the district. So you can approve creation of the employees, the position as a town council member because all of the employees are employed by the council. I think that there will be budget adjustments that will come before the board that will reflect the decisions. To be honest, we probably could have put this on both agendas, but that seems kind of silly. Because yes, as when you switch your hat and you become the district governing body, you're going to approve the budget. But you're switching your hats to approve positions of, because all of the positions are technically town employees.
I guess it's that switching hat part.
Okay.
Okay, with
Did
that,
answer your question?
Yeah, Jim had a question again.
Okay.
So let me tell you the assumptions I'm working on now. We approve the positions, and then come December, when we do sort of our mid-year true up adjustment entry, the town will show a higher salary. The sewer district will show a higher budgeted salary.
I think that's right, but I think in practically speaking, we may have some salary savings because we're down positions now, so you may not see it exactly that way. I think, and maybe just to go back to Councilmember Casissa's question, what we're trying to do, I guess, was in one staff report, put all the information that might be relevant to both you as a council member and you as a board member, so we can do it at one meeting. And Councilmember Casissa and I actually discussed this, and it took me a while to understand how we were doing that. So I understand the question, but hopefully I think that is the best way I can explain what we're doing here. Even though you're not technically acting as board members right now, the information's there for you to make the decision.
Okay.
And just one clarification on that. We would have had to hear it as the council, even if SD2 had approved anyway. So yeah, this is just, it's like putting it all in one resolution. So, okay.
Okay, I have just one comment. I think a lot of the stuff that public works staff has to do, sometimes there's emergencies, big stuff happening. I'm just wanting, hopefully, for there to be some consideration, if we're allowed, of how close they live to Corte Madera I mean, if you've got two candidates and one is in Marin and the other is way over in the East Bay, we need people who are nearby in emergencies. So I hope that that would be at least one factor that we would look at. Just my comment.
Yeah, and actually our superintendent brought that up as possibly changing that in either the classifications or municipal code, I'm not sure, but he said that, you know, in other districts and cities, they require staff to live within a certain radius just so they can respond quickly. So potentially we're looking at that in the future.
Very
I
good.
think we would definitely give preference or take that into consideration when we're evaluating for sure, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there a motion from anyone? Would anyone like to?
I can go ahead and make the motion to authorize the hiring of an additional senior maintenance worker in the Public Works Department.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Vice Mayor Thomas.
Councilmember Andrews,
Yes.
Councilmember Beckman,
Yes.
Councilmember Casissa.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Mayor Ravazio.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion carries.
thank you very much. Okay, and our final item of business tonight is discussion and possible action by the mayor to appoint a council member to serve as a liaison to the Town Finance Advisory Committee. And is there a staff report from?
Yeah. Yes, I will present this
Lorena.
one.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mayor Ravazio. So for some background on this item, on February 7th, 2023, Council reviewed and approved a job description that defined the role and expectations for council members serving as liaisons to town boards, commissions, and committees, or otherwise known as advisory bodies, that are advisory bodies created by council under the municipal code, chapter 2.06. The job description that was approved by council formalized the intent of the liaison role and defined the objectives and expectations for council members who are appointed as liaisons to serve in that role. On February 18th of this year was when this council adopted Resolution 8, 2025, creating the Finance Advisory Committee. And at the establishment at the time of establishment of that committee, a council liaison was not designated for the committee. And they are now scheduled for their first meeting to be held on September 24th at 6 p.m. And so to make sure that we have everything checked off and we have an assigned liaison, staff is requesting that one council member be appointed to serve as the liaison. I will add that alternate liaisons are not appointed to council-created advisory bodies. You'll notice every December when we do the appointments, the bodies where Corte Madera is represented do have a council member as a main or the primary appointee, and then there's an alternate. But for the council-created advisory bodies, there's only one council member assigned to serve as a liaison, which is why the request is just to have one member be appointed. And I'm happy to go into any of the information in the job description if you'd like. And I did note that right now we have Councilmember Andrews serving on BPAC. The Climate Action Committee is Councilmember Beckman. Vice Mayor Thomas is on the Flood Control Board. The Parks and Recreation Commission is Councilmember Casissa, and then Mayor Ravazio is on the Sales Tax Committee. And then in December, at the second meeting on the 16th, we will do the appointments again. So that would be an opportunity to make any changes if you wish to do so.
And so at this point, are there any questions from council regarding this issue? Yes.
The first meeting of it is September 24th.
That's correct.
Isn't that when we have the Marin County?
Mayor and council members meeting in Mill Valley, which
This is this is really an introductory meeting to the committee and just explaining what it is, setting a schedule. So it's very organizationally focused of just setting expectations. So if a council member can't make it there, you can always obviously review after the fact. I don't think there's going to be much missed.
Okay,
It's not gonna be
thank you for that.
substantive.
And
Any-
we will be recording the meetings just like we do with our other advisory bodies. So there will be a record that the appointed council member can refer to.
Mhm. So attendance not mandatory at that first meeting. All right. So are there any other questions from council?
Just a quick question. Do you know how many times you think that committees or that they're going to meet like 4 times a year?
I think
just
we're
rough.
So Chris and I have been talking, and I think we're thinking of quarterly and
Okay.
timing that with sort of the reporting that happens on a quarterly basis. But and so I think that works. So I think the first one we were thinking of was sometime in November. So it's like a month after the quarter ends, or a month, 4 to 6 weeks after a quarter ends.
Okay.
Probably around then.
And they would be like 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
Okay, so unless there's any questions, we'll open it up for public comment. Is there any questions from the audience? I don't see any. Anybody online?
We don't have any hands raised from our attendee online.
Okay,
No emailed public comment for this
Okay.
item.
thank you. So because one of the reasons that I recommended and did get an acceptance from Jim Andrews to serve on as liaison to this committee is that the meeting is at night and he has a full-time job still and is unable to make some of the daytime meetings. So this seemed like a really good opportunity for Jim. And I do think we should look maybe at a reassignment on some of the other, on the one other, if there's problems with getting attendance there. But I would recommend that we have Jim Andrews serve on that and through December. And then again, there'll be an opportunity at that time for a juggling by the new mayor.
Okay.
Does that sound all right to you?
Unless Fred wants it badly. Okay.
Well, Fred has quite a few assignments. Fred seems very busy to me.
I'll be your
so-
alternate, but there is no alternate.
Fred always lists about 10 things that he's done in the last week, or the last month. So is that okay? Do we need to have a vote on approving that? We just move on.
Correct.
Okay. All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks very much. So that moves us to number 7, which is council reports. And we will start with our town manager.
Thank you. Since food trucks was brought up earlier, I did want to note that Amy Lyle has been working very hard on this and has been receiving a lot of different pieces of feedback. Certainly, I think everything that Bob Ravazio was saying is correct in terms of a lot of concern from the business owners. Other people are concerned about parking. And so one thing I will just say, Amy's worked with the owners of that food truck to reduce some of the hours and days. So for example, today, he was not out there, or the food truck was not there today. We know one of the businesses is closed on Monday, so we think that's probably a good day to be there. And just working through some reduced hours and potential other locations. Nothing's firmed up, 100% at this point, but I just want to let the council know that Amy's been working very diligently at trying to figure out solutions. Again, it's a pilot. We do have a coffee cart coming in at some point here shortly. That's going to add to the mix, and we'll have to see how that goes. But I think this is just somewhat normal. Little bit of as you try something new, you're going to get some feedback and you have to adjust. And I think that was the whole idea of this, is let's try something and then pivot as you move forward. And I will say the owner of the food truck, existing food truck, has been very amenable and very appreciative and willing to work with the town on different potential options. So the other thing I wanted to mention is yesterday I attended it's actually a full day. It was out at Point Reyes. It was very nice. I'm not going to lie. It was a retreat, strategic planning retreat for Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, and I serve on the operations committee. And so it was really an opportunity for the operations committee to check in. We're almost about halfway through the tax measure. And so I think the executive director, Mark Brown, who's excellent, as we all know, thought it was a good opportunity to say, hey, how are we doing? Are there things we need to look at and change course maybe a little bit? There's new players involved, so realigning ourselves with the original purpose and mission of the organization. Where might there be efficiencies? Obviously, at some point in the future, this is going to come back up for a renewal of the tax measure. So we want to make sure that the organization is operating as efficiently as possible, and every dollar is really going to the purpose and mission of the organization. And so I just wanted to share that I was there. It was a good meeting, good way to check in, and nice to be out in Point Reyes. Finally, Madera Gardens. I think Chris alluded to this, but we've had some concerns by some of the residents in Madera Gardens about, as we usually do when we go for a paving project, we have the private sewer lateral ordinance kicks in, and there's always a lot of concerns, not only about the responsibility that places on individual homeowners, but some of the costs and also the timing involved with having to, what seems like, to act pretty quickly to get things resolved. And so partly as a result of that, I think we are moving our construction schedule. It's not just because of that. There's some capacity issues as well, but partly I think it does us well to pause a little bit and say, hey, we're going to construct the curbs and gutters in the early springtime and do the paving right afterwards and knock it out in one fell swoop there. And so it also has the benefit of just giving more time to homeowners there to sort of be responsive and be compliant with the private sewer lateral ordinance. Some we'll talk and we'll put messaging out as we can to just give that information out to the community. So that is on Madera Gardens project. And then just to note, we're working through some current issues, which may also affect some timing with respect to the Paradise Drive Complete Streets project. It relates to the relationship of the project to property owned by Marin Audubon Society. And I'm confident that we'll come to some resolution, but it's going to take some time to just resolve those issues before saying, we can bring this back to the council for bid and whatnot. So just working through those. If you have any questions later, you can follow up with me on those. Thanks.
Any questions of Adam? Okay, let's come to the council for reports. Who wants to go first? Go ahead, Jim.
Okay. The first is the Twin Cities disaster preparedness. We had a meeting this week or so ago. One issue that came up and no one had a solution, but folks said we should think about it, is about 25% of our population is over age 65. Many of them are a lot older than age 65. They're living at home, and if somebody falls down and it does not have their cell phone in their hands or nearby, how would we check on, or how would, is there any mechanism that we can come up with so that periodically we can check on all of them and say, hey, you doing okay? And I don't know how to do it, whether encourage everybody to get a cell phone and send them a text message. And if somebody responds saying, okay, forget about it, or, everybody's sort of scratching their heads, thinking about what would be an effective way to do this, okay? Another item is, I went to the TAM meeting where they're talking about adjusting the allocation percentages of the funds. And It does not look like they'll be making major changes. The one thing I noticed is that money being dedicated to big highway projects will be scaled down in the future, and the remaining funds will be allocated elsewhere. But if you want, I can send you a copy of the sheet where they talked about the percentage change. It's like 0.5%. So
Okay.
that's
Who's
it.
next? Rosa? No? No report? Okay.
Just a couple, 9/4/10 Ross Valley Paramedic Authority meeting. Just one thing to note there is we do get statistics. So just kind of put it in perspective, Medic 14, which runs out of Corte Madera from April 1st through 6/30, they actually went out on 530 runs. So the average number of runs, 197 of those were in Corte Madera, 227 were in Larkspur, and 325 actually resulted in transport. The majority of those go, I still call it Marin General. I think it's called Marin Health. And then the other thing is also the way paramedic Ross RVPA works is that it's all a lot of mutual aid and everybody covering everybody else. So they also had limited runs, but they were out to Fairfax, Mill Valley, and they had to run it up to Novato. But again, it's the way the system works. Medic 18 out of Ross, Medic 14 out of Corte Madera, County will cover San Rafael, Southern Marin Fire. So they're all helping each other. 9/8 attended Marin Transit Board meeting. We did set meetings in October for schedule change. 9/10, we had a meeting intergenerational center. Adam, myself, and Pat, we actually met on site. We actually got into the secret storage room that nobody realized was there, which I think there's a potential for us to use that as storage. And everybody thought, nobody knew what to expect. I think it's 14.5 feet by 19. So it's a pretty good size that we're going to be able to use for storage. We also met Rosin there, who's doing the design work. And we're still moving forward with the lease, right? Thank you. And then on 9/13, fun for everyone, the Lions Car Show. Appreciate all the effort that the town provide us with Public Works and Central Marin Police was there, CHP, Kids Scavenger Hunt. So I think everybody had a really good time. It was a great fundraiser for the Lions. And that's it. Thanks.
Eli.
This will be pretty fast. On September 11th, I did the tour of the Paradise Pump Station. That was really awesome. I want to thank staff for putting that on. That was a $7.3 million rehab that we did there, which kind of ouch in terms of the dollar sign, but when you go and tour it, you understand why. I had no idea how big that facility is. It looks from the surface like a pretty small little just hut. And then you step inside and you realize that it goes down 4 stories below ground, and there are just, 3 enormous pumps and I think 2 more small pumps in there. Really put into perspective for me why this is such a critical piece of infrastructure for our town and why this project was so important. So thanks again to staff for making that happen. On September 13th, had a great time at the Corte Madera Car Show. Hats off to the Lions Club who made that happen, and to town staff and all the public agencies that supported. And then earlier today, we had a Central Marin Sanitation Agency financial committee meeting. I'll just share a quick update from that. At CMSA, the way that all of the member agencies are billed for wastewater treatment is it's a formula based on how much wastewater you send and how dirty that wastewater is. So basically how much treatment your water needs. The dirtiness of the water is measured from these little like sensors that are at the, at different points in the pipelines that lead into CMSA. If you move where those sensors are, or if you move where those samples are collected from, you will get slightly different data. The location of these sensors and the whole process for allocating these costs has always been mutually agreed to by all the member agencies. So, I think what's important, what I'm getting at is that we've always allocated costs based on a good faith interpretation of the best data that we've had available to us following a mutually agreed upon process. Recently, a mutually agreed upon change was made to move the locations of those sensors. This changed the data coming in, and it basically, as a result, Ross Valley is going to be paying slightly less, and SD2 and San Rafael San will be paying slightly more. The change is not major. That's fine. My concern is that Ross Valley is now coming to SD2 and San Rafael San and saying, hey, we'd like to be back paid for like 12 years of what they're characterizing as overpayment. I don't see it as overpayment because again, we were using a mutually agreed upon process and the best data we had available to us. So I'm just putting this out on the radar so everybody's aware. RVSD, Ross Valley Sanitary, is going to be asking for millions of dollars from CMSA and or our member agencies. My position is that it's just not something that I'm interested in entertaining, given that there was no foul play here. Everybody's been acting in good faith all along, and I'm hoping that the the agency's business is going to continue in that spirit.
So does Ross Valley still want to take over our sewer district?
They might be interested.
Let's not get into too much of a conversation about that when it's not on the agenda. Look at me adhering to the rules.
Pro mayor.
I'm learning. It's a learning curve, but so I have just a couple things that I think are exciting. The car show, great effort, Fred and all of your team, and the IGC thing coming along. Get that lease signed any month now. And I heard from the county that they have written the new tobacco rules to stop the promotional pricing aimed at young people, and that they are going to be asking all of the municipalities to sign on to that. So we have one good, strong county ordinance, and there is some pressure pushing to ban tobacco sales altogether in Marin. And I'm not sure how Corte Madera feels about that. Apparently Tiburon already did it. They're not selling tobacco anywhere in Tiburon now. So there is precedent, and of course, Manhattan Beach and Beverly Hills. So maybe Corte Madera belongs on that list somewhere. We can talk about that later. And then the only other thing I wanted to tell you about is I met with the lovely Richard Block, our new historian. He doesn't really call himself a historian. He calls himself a program manager of the archives. And he had some great contributions. He brought some things that I was very surprised to see. And one is, I'll give you this little trivia in case you ever get asked. The sanitary district, number 2, is actually 16 years older than the town of Corte Madera. It was formed long before Corte Madera was even a sparkle in somebody's eye. So I think that's all I have. And I think that means it takes us now to discussion of agenda items for upcoming town council meetings. Does anyone have anything they would like to see on a future agenda?
Yeah, just one thing that came up tonight. Is the flag policy going to come back to us at some point in time, or
Which policy?
flag?
Oh, the flag.
I don't know. I mean,
Well, I would just say that Adam did exactly what I think we were being asked to do, and that is, if there's something controversial, let's take a little straw vote of the council and make sure that we're not out of line with our community.
Never take straw votes outside of a noticed and public meeting. I think, it's really, it is a policy. It's a policy that directs staff to, and it sets guidelines for staff. So it does give some discretion to staff over how to exercise it. If council feels that's sufficient at the time, we don't need to bring it back, but it's obviously council's call. If you would like it to come back and look at it, totally your call.
Does it say in the policy that there is some discretion on staff? I didn't see that, but maybe I missed it.
It probably does not, I have to read it through again, but it probably does not explicitly state that, but policies themselves are not laws. They are policies. And so they set forth guidance. We could make some changes to the policy if that's council's pleasure, or you could wait to see if, how things go and bring it back at a later date. I think, it's totally in council's call.
Let's think about it for a while.
I think that's a good idea. And I have some thoughts on that as well and can certainly discuss with the mayor or Councilmember Casissa separately and we can take it from there. But I would agree that we don't necessarily need to, I don't think it's necessarily needed at this time, but we can ponder it and potentially bring it back if we feel like it's a important issue that we need to address in the text.
My feeling is that as long as it says somewhere that there is discretion allowed, that it's not a mandatory thing, that we can plot ahead with it as it is. But if it needs to be changed to add discretion, it should be a fairly simple, limited thing that could even be on the consent calendar, maybe. I don't know. I don't think it needs to be a huge deal. My
Let's think
feeling.
about it a bit and then agendize it.
If it needs to be agendized, or
Yeah.
if it's sufficient as it is.
Yeah, and if I could share my thoughts quickly, I think my sense is that the issue here was that we didn't know that there was discretion, and it wasn't until we did a little legal review that we found out that there is discretion. And I think that now that we know that, I'm perfectly comfortable with the status quo. And I think if the town manager ever receives a presidential order to lower the flag and he's not sure which way he thinks we would want to go, he can bring it to us on an agenda.
Right. It's just that the thing about, I know the straw vote is not a Brown Act allowed thing, but it needs to happen quickly. You can't wait for the next meeting because it's either down or it's not. So how do we do it in a timely way? I'm just wondering how we do it in a timely way. If
Think
we,
about it for a bit more.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Just one thing to get it on the record. I know that day I was out of reach, and I know Adam was unable to contact me that day, just the way it was. And that may happen if something like that happens again. It just may be he won't be able to get a hold of all of us or just a few of us.
And at the end of the day, whether the flags are up or down is not like a national emergency for our town.
well, I don't want that to be minimized because I do think that this is where things start, and the little
Yeah, I
things
think-
need to
I
be
think-
addressed so that the big things will be ready to address.
Right. If I may, we should really curb the discussion to whether or not we want to add it to the agenda at this time. And if we do, we can engage in an in-depth discussion, but since it's not an agenda item, we should really restrict discussion to whether or not to add it to the agenda. And
Okay, well, then I think the direction is it's kind of up to staff and our attorney to let us know whether or not we need to do something to protect the ability for staff to have discretion. That's all we're asking, is to make sure that that is, so that the next town manager and the next council sees it and understands it and doesn't have to go digging for it like we did.
Okay.
Okay.
I think,
Just-
yes. Yes.
It's up to you. Up to you guys.
Okay, so what I'm
No.
hearing is it doesn't need to be agendized in the near future, but that may change.
Very good. Anything else for the upcoming agenda? Anybody else? Okay, well, with that, oh my goodness. Eli said 8 o'clock. We're 5 minutes early. Should we talk some more? We are adjourned. 7:55.